Welcome back to On the Brink. Every fortnight, we speak to accomplished founders and industry experts about the fine line between breakdown and breakthrough. I'm Shailene, and today I'm with Art Lee, the Web3 tech podcast host and creator behind the startup Voyage, a Web3 business growth show. He's interviewed the likes of Ben Caselin, the chief marketing officer of VALR, on cryptocurrency values, Ruth, Galvin, and Jasper Maere from Outlier Ventures on Web3 funding and market trends for 2024, and many, many more. Art has also been an ICO advisor. He won Streamer of the Year in 2022 and was head of content at the WOW Summit just this year. He is also a valued Web3 mentor for Brinc's Accelerator. So thank you so much for joining me, Art. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's start with something that I actually spotted while stalking you on LinkedIn. I'm just going to take one of your quotes here. Throughout my journey, I realized that if you want to become a podcaster, you really have to love being a content creator. So, what initially drew you to this dynamic and often unpredictable world of Web3 specifically? Were there any experiences or insights that made you think Web3 is the industry that you want to create content for?
I've been in tech for over 2 decades. And so that's the space I'm in, whether it be loyalty systems with enterprise software packages that I was selling and doing marketing for, which has pretty much been my realm. I've done some development in the past as well. But the whole point is I spent most of my career in communications, whether it be sales and marketing for technology products. So because that's my skill set and you're in a very nascent vertical, which is basically Web3 or crypto, blockchain, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. I decided to go into these areas because I could offer my skill set to help companies better convey their message, their value proposition to their end consumer. So that's how I got in. Also, it's very fascinating for me to always be on the cutting edge of technology. It was just something I always try to stay abreast of to make sure I'm always up to date.
You definitely picked the right industry for that because, as you said, Web3 is a landscape that is constantly evolving to the point where it is almost quite hard to keep up with it. And so I do want to ask you, pick your brain a little bit. Can you share a development in the Web3 landscape that genuinely surprised you and maybe discuss a bit of its implications for the industry?
Going into Web3, I worked with different startups, and the model has always been go in, create a message around the mission, a mission that the masses understand, resonate with, and build a community around a product that's at some point you need to commercialize. Now, I understand for majority of the world, doesn't matter if you're in tech or what business you're in, everyone's always trying to make money.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that it wasn't until later, and this might be obvious because I didn't get into doing a lot of stuff in finance, or I wasn't like a management consulting, understanding how a lot of these businesses wrap deals together to create business opportunities and basically create a bigger market for businesses. Where I'm going with all this is just that money really drives everything. And that sounds very simple, but what I mean by that is that if it were not for fresh capital from angel investors, seed investors, who are willing to pretty much risk losing all of their money, if it were not for that, a lot of the new innovations in tech in general would never occur. That was the one thing as an ICO advisor, I was so amazed to see so many investors flowing in just from a pure idea. I was just thinking, how do people do this? Don't investors want to see somebody creating some sort of revenue or some proof that there's a revenue that could be made before they put their money in? But I've talked to some of these investors and a lot of them were like, no, we want to be on the cutting edge too, right? But in a different way.
Oh,
The narrative is usually who are the people who will be building this product or representing the company at the forefront.
yeah.
And so people are investing in people, not so much the technology that's being built.
In that same vein, you say that it's very people driven and community driven, which on one hand is fantastic. On the other, I'm sure there are some challenges there. So Web3 does face quite a few challenges. Could you describe a significant hurdle that you've observed and explain how the community effectively addressed it?
I've worked on many projects where the talk is always, we need to build a community. And usually it's
Yeah.
because they need those community users to onboard and use their products and or monetize from that community. I think for the community part, and I won't talk specific about any particular project because it's pretty common throughout Web3 in general. They always go out to the community, and the ones that just want to show quick results will do things like an airdrop or discounts or coupons or do something that stimulates people to get on board to facilitate creating new accounts or basically their user acquisition KPIs to meet those KPIs. And if done, how I've seen companies do really well is that they actually care opinions or feedback from the community in order to build out the product. So it's basically, it's not what you call a product fit, it's a community fit. And
Yeah.
those are the areas when I see it really flourishes a company's development stage because they're really being efficient and not wasting time. They're going
Mhm.
direct to what they think would be their customers at that point in time. They validate that those are the customers and what they want. And there's a saying that customers don't know what they want until they see it, right? So there's
Yeah.
that. Well, but that's the whole point, working with the community to help uncover what is it that they're looking for, and that's what drives development. So that's in general, that's what I see across many of the projects that I've worked with.
Predicting industry disruptions can be quite challenging. Have you noted any indicators that maybe your guests that you recently had on your show
Right,
rely on to foresee how Web3 might transform various sectors? Now, I know that's such a broad question. So, I
right, right.
guess within the scope of what you've seen lately, can you make any comments or give any insights on that?
But basically, you're asking how are people trying to predict the next thing, right? If
Yeah,
that's
basically, because obviously at one point there was NFT and then
right.
it was like the metaverse. And so it's hard to pinpoint. So I'm just
Right.
wondering, have you noticed anything?
Specifically in Web3, what I've recognized is the interconnectivity and engagement between different communities of different projects. For example, you might have an NFT that will create some relationship with some DeFi project. And if there's some, you can call them synergies or some common proposition that they can offer both communities from obviously the different companies, they would try to work together and leverage communities to do more or to participate more. And so I think when I talk to investors, they go around and they just ask people of influence in the space, hey, what do you think or the trend or the narratives? Many of these people are doing that mainly because they're looking for opportunities to invest. Actually, a lot of people are looking for coins
Yeah.
out there backed by some project that are in that space and they want to invest in it. Because what naturally happens and been proven in the space time and time again is the communities, the noise that it creates on social media, but in Web3, it really is two communities talking about each other, that they're working together, really getting really excited. And when they see a lot of this chatter or sentiment on social media, that is one indicator people look for to see where
Yeah.
the interest is. Now, the funny thing is, it's not an indicator of what will actually come out at the end of the day. You might get excited and there's all this activity happening for maybe 6 months. And after that, it dies. That's what happens, especially when people are doing a token generation event where they're building up hype. Basically, it launches, and at the end of the day, you don't hear anything of it afterwards. Yeah, I think my main message is a lot of it is driven by the communities.
What I'm getting from you is it's definitely not a landscape made for the weak. It sounds like you need to really be open to the fact that everything in this space is quite volatile. So I want to switch gears a little bit. As a
So,
Brink mentor, I'm sure there are certain things that you have noticed. There's like a common piece of advice that you seem to be giving pretty often to Web3 entrepreneurs. So do you have any advice for those? And is it something that you find like you need to dole out this advice constantly?
I always try to keep it very simple and said, hey,
Yeah.
people first, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
Web3 space is what it's known for. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, people don't know what that means, or they don't know how to move forward. What does it mean by people first, right? They may hire someone junior that wants to help out. They will depend on these guys to actually facilitate engagement or create some community excitement or whatever feedback. And if that person is no good, then obviously nothing happened. If you are the creators of this project, you guys have to be the people who know how to market and sell your project the best. If you can't, If you can articulate it and you have problem articulate it, even if you hire someone that helps you, you have to hone in on your own capabilities on
Yeah.
communicating that value. And to me,
Yeah.
that's been in my whole career because I've been in startups my whole career. That's pretty much
Yeah.
the main message. And it's time and
Yeah.
time again. I pitch my investors, I got the money. So I believe that is our message. Is it? You got the
Yeah.
money to validate. You got to build this company. You still got to validate, continue validate from your community
Yeah.
if the messaging still resonates or if it even matters to what you're trying to do, whatever your big mission is. People in Web3 probably will listen to this and say, okay, that's wrong, right? Because these guys have a different mindset in the sense of
Yeah.
they built a hype for the community. Oh, we're doing this. We're going to do great things in the future. Yeah, that gets you by on year 2, year 3, year 4. At some point, your investors or token holders, if you're in that space, they're going to want you to make sure that you're monetizing the whole thing and it actually works the way you said. There is a post that's been going around or a lot of reaction happening to this one post on LinkedIn. And it's of this couple I met many years ago when I was ICO advisor, and they wanted to do a raise through an ICO, right? And then all of a sudden, I see that they've sometime earlier this year, I think they listed on the Nasdaq. Now I'll just put some numbers out. It's
Yeah.
$7 a share, right? And then within a month or two, it's like down to 20 cents or something like that. Something incredibly crazy. And then all these investors are going on social media saying all these things to the CEO. Hey, what's going on? You're not being a leader. What's going on with the company? How can you let this happen? And I was thinking, okay, this is a company we just got on NASDAQ that has performed in the same manner in which some of these tokens they go up and
Oh,
it's like a rug pull, right? And that's something that I realized that it's not only Web3, it's been happening for years. People are making markets, all the big investors behind are pushing it. They pull the money out, and all the little retail investors are left holding the bag, which is what
yeah.
ends in Web3. So, anyways, I'm sorry, I was going off a tangent there, but yeah,
Throughout this conversation, you've mentioned a few things, and that's like user acquisition, loyalty, and community, but also the fact that you can do all the right things and
yeah,
then the rug is pulled out from under you.
right,
But that's not native to Web3.
right,
That's, like you said, the nature of business. So
yeah,
maybe I suppose that's a misconception that we are clearing up in this conversation is that Web3 is volatile, but so is business in
yeah,
general. So,
exactly, yeah. People are focusing on Web3 because that's the new opportunity, right? That's where it's easy to pull the rug a lot of people, if I to say. But yeah, that is the thing. But when it comes to Brink, I do want to add, like I joined Brink earlier this year to help with their projects, mainly focused on Web3. And at least projects coming in through Brink, they're solid. Obviously, they Brink already did its DD and made sure that they onboarded quality projects. So that was actually very refreshing in my work. That's one of the reasons why I agreed to work with these projects. Whereas before I was reaching out and I still do a lot of random projects out there or they come to me. And
yeah.
so I just wanted to add that.
You've opened up perfectly for my penultimate question for you, which is how do you foresee the role of accelerators like Brink evolving within the Web3 ecosystem? So, right now, you're saying that, especially Brink, we're an ecosystem builder. I think that's what we do really well. So, what are your thoughts on this? What should entrepreneurs consider when selecting an accelerator program and like how it fits into Web3?
So when I talk to the projects who've actually joined accelerators, I hear mixed messages. I always ask, what are the pros and cons? How do they help? And have they failed you? And I think what it
Yeah.
comes down to when you're selecting an accelerator, a lot of it, you first need to set your own expectations, number one. So that's the first thing. And the reason why I say that is because some people go into accelerators thinking, oh, we're going to get so much access to the resource, so much help. It's no doubt we're going to become successful. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't matter what accelerator that you decide to work with, you have to leverage what they have. But at the end of the day, you need to make it happen. You're the
Yeah.
one at the end of the day. So when you look at an accelerator and you look at their people or you work with them to see when you want to exit, it is actually in your own control. You're in the driver's seat to decide what you want to do with your company. So set your own expectations, understand the accelerators outcomes that they're trying to drive because you got to understand how to align with them. And it all comes down to you to make it happen at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're actually echoing the sentiment of our first episode of On the Brink, where we interviewed the founder of Aria Health, Georgina. And she actually said the exact same. She said, when you go into an accelerator, you have to know exactly what you're going in for and ask for it. Make use of the resources that are available to you in the accelerator and actually commit. Because at the end of the day, someone like Brink, what we always say is that we empower game changers so that they can solve global pressing challenges. So to me, it's exactly what you've just said. It's
Right.
that you get what you put in,
Yeah.
essentially. And we're
Yeah.
here to help empower
Yeah.
them. Yeah. I only have one last question for you before we go into the quick questions game. But I wanted to ask what's next for you and the start of Voyage? Is there anything you'd like to tell our audience about that we can look forward to?
Yeah. So I think in business, you always got to reflect how you're running it, what you enjoy doing, what you don't. It's always a discovery process. And I guess it's how I approach life anyways. There's always change. That's the one constant in business is change. And so when I first got into the podcast, I was thinking, oh, well, I'm going to talk to all these people. It's going to be so fun. And I'm going to create YouTube. And I love creating content, right? And I like talking to people more than creating content. That's what I learned. I need to find a way to better understand my audience. So yeah, more feedback. So I've been reaching out a little bit more. And then through the discovery process, I realized that a lot of these people who go into Web3, or let's say in tech, or they have a startup, uh, there's a common theme. Like they're just
Mm.
not good at marketing and sales. So I'm shifting, creating a product besides my podcast that I'll be working on. And that's mainly a program course or a lot of
Yeah.
video content around marketing sales. So basically what I'm calling it is marketing for non-marketers.
Well, that well, yeah, straight to the point. I love that.
Well, I hate being on social media all the time. I just want to shut down, right? I always got to be commenting and I got to be out there pumping out the next news or looking at what's happening to get a pulse of what's going on. At the end of the day, I know people are like tired of it. Everyone says they love it, but I know for a fact it's always in the beginning. No one loves it after 5 years, right? So the product is going to be purely focusing on how do you run marketing for a company with a bootstrap mindset because I think once people will get money from investors or even the ones that got it from a token raise, you really look at these companies and they blew their money. Who knows what they spent on, right? When you get a lot of money and it's more than what you expected, you're like, oh yeah, I'll pay myself a better salary because I want to go on that trip travel, some stuff like
Yeah,
that. But it's human, right? Humans want to just enjoy themselves. Anyway, so
absolutely.
that's what's next, and I'm hoping to create a community around that because that's been my space. So instead of working directly a one-on-one with a project or business, I'm trying to help more people on scale with this product.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That sounds super exciting. And we can't wait to hear more about it. Definitely share whatever you're creating with Brink so we can help support you on amplifying that. But before I let you go, I do want to play that quick game I told you about. It's going to be super easy. You don't have to think too hard. And it is quick fire things. So don't feel like you have to elaborate. But if you have thoughts, feel free to. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
The name of the game is Madness or Greatness. Your task is to judge each scenario as either madness, meaning a definite entrepreneurial faux pas, or greatness, a strategy or habit that could pave the way to success.
Right.
So, number one, launching a product before conducting any market research.
Oh, that is greatness, pure greatness.
Two, ignoring feedback from early users because you believe in your vision. I feel like I know what you're going to say.
For me, I think that's madness. Yeah. I always feel like you don't have to listen to what everyone's saying, but that feedback, I mean, if you're doing a good job qualifying your community in the first place, you should value them. Yeah.
Yeah. Number three, spending heavily on marketing before achieving product market fit.
Madness. It happens all the time.
Number four, using memes as a primary marketing strategy to attract a younger audience.
As greatness, go with what's been working.
Number five, hosting a virtual reality event to showcase your Web3 product. What do you think about that?
Um,
Is that a thing?
yeah, it is. It is. I wouldn't say, I guess it's great. It'll be greatness one in these days, but
Mm.
I think most people that I've heard has been a little bit underwhelmed. Like they get engagement, but the outcomes have not really changed much of
Yeah.
the impact being made.
And last one, building a large Discord community before launching your product.
Oh, I think that's greatness. That's
Yeah.
greatness because, like I said, it's always going back to community. So actually, there was instances where I saw a product that was born out of a need of a community. They wanted something. So why not figure out what the community wants first and then build it? So I think that's greatness.
I agree. I think that is the really beautiful thing about Web3. And I see other companies outside of Web3 trying to emulate exactly that. And
Yeah.
it's giving more power back to the people, which is lovely. So,
Yeah.
amen to that. And
Cool.
honestly, that's all I have for you today, Art. Thank you so much for your time. It's been fantastic. To find out more about the Startup Voyage, please visit thestartupvoyage.com. And to learn more about all the other amazing founders and mentors in Brink's ecosystem, head to brink.io. And don't forget to subscribe for the next episode of On the Brink, now available on both YouTube and Spotify. And check out Art's podcast as well. And see you next time.